welcome back to the Sporting Global podcast. And Eve, welcome here. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me. It's gonna be a great time.
Absolutely. I mean, we're just gonna comment on what's your favorite book behind you?
Oh yes, my fabulous books back here that you're commenting on. It's a great virtual background. So all of them, they're all great books.
I can imagine. But I'm really excited to have you here, Eve, and we're gonna talk a lot about sort of like how it is to recruit staff in the stadium operations side, a little bit on, your journey in the sport industry, what you're doing at Allied Universal. And there's a lot of good tips, a lot of good insights. I know you sort of mentioning yourself as sort of like a hybrid, HR hybrid. So, we have to talk a little bit about that too. But for those of you that are tuning in, and would like to hear more insights, from people like Eve, make sure to subscribe to this channel, like the video if you like it, it's really appreciates us. Maybe put down a comment, if you have any additional questions, if there's stuff that, maybe if there's some people you want us to interview, make sure to do that and we will really appreciate it. So Eve, we're just going to dive right into it. And I want to know, how did your journey in the sport industry begin?
So we don't have all day for this, but I will definitely give you the clip
notes.
So my sports journey actually began in radio. I actually started at a sports radio station here in San Francisco.
Nice.
And while I was there working on radio shows and whatnot, there was an internship that I saw with the San Francisco Giants. Also, during all this time, I was still working another part-time job, and I was actually just beginning my USF sports management program.
Nice.
So I got the interview, got the internship, and lo and behold, then I was at the Giants for 4 years. So it was a great ride. I worked in different departments. I was in the game entertainment, then in the special events, and my latter 2 years was in the baseball operations side. So it was a lot of behind the scenes versus in front of the scenes my first 2 years. And then I kind of stepped away from sports and I was like, I'm gonna go make some money.
Right.
And then I realized, you know what? I'm very passionate about sports and I need to get my foot back. So I actually got back into sports with the 49ers.
Nice.
So I actually started with just game day.
Yeah.
And then I kind of also got my foot into the HR.
Right.
So working game day and also working as an HR assistant. And I had this goal though that I really enjoyed operations because there's so many moving parts that when they built the new stadium, my goal was to be working back full time with the operations. And then that time came and I moved over from HR back into the ops world. So I was working for the stadium operations department and I was with the 49ers for 7 years.
Wow.
So where does that bring us to today? I actually work on the service provider side now at the Chase Center. So with Allied Universal as the security for the events.
That's awesome. I mean, you've been touching not only on different kind of roles, but different kind of sports too. Which is always fascinating too. Of just feeling the different kind of environments, the culture of baseball, American football. There's a lot of heavy cultures there.
It's funny you mentioned that because I totally forgot to interject that I actually did go work a golf tournament too in Mexico. So
in Mexico,
kind of been all over the place.
Well, it's cool though, getting some international experience too, and just getting that insights. And I mean, this is something that we try to push a lot for people too. Is explore your options, right? Go out, maybe study abroad. Maybe I know now it's a little bit challenging of doing a lot of those things, but yeah. But
eventually we're gonna get back to something of a new norm to that.
Right. So then people can study and they can work and they can, attend events all over the world. We literally just got invited to why don't you come and speak with us in Spain? And I'm like, well, Norway is kind of locked at the moment for international travels. But, when it opens up, I'll definitely be there. So, there's already on my to-do list. So it will happen at some point.
Yes, it will. And Spain is great.
Spain is great. It's I haven't been all over the place, but like there's some great cities there, and a lot warmer than Norway. So that's
Yes,
always a good thing.
and great food.
Great food as well, like tapas. Like the Okay, so we gotta get back into the questions before we get too carried away with like Spain here. But but obviously you mentioned a little bit on like sort of like getting your foot in the door, I guess, like in a sense with HR during your time at the 49ers, working as like the workforce manager. And what were some of like the key lessons that I guess you brought with you to like now being at Allied Universal?
I think there's definitely a few lessons. The first and foremost important one is the people, right? You're
Yeah,
hiring people for the right role, and you need to make sure that they fit
yeah,
for the organization and also for what the requirements are.
right,
But even to go a step further with that is those people, pretty much, if you don't have them, you kind of don't have a job.
right.
And the way you first give that first impression is key because that person's going to basically choose whether they want to work for you or they don't want to work for you. So it's
Mm,
really a reciprocal. Like, even though I want you to work for me, right? I need them to want to work for me as well.
right.
So kind of just establishing good relationships with your new hires, regardless that they're full-time or part-time, but that's like your lifeline. And it's having that rapport with them. That, I think, no matter what organization, what type of field of work you go into, is the most important. Because if you don't build that, I don't really know how successful you're going to be honest.
Right, right.
Because I've been very lucky that I build these relationships and I get to know about these people, their families, what they've done in their past, what they currently do. A
Yeah,
lot of these folks have this as a second job. And knowing those key details, right? They're not just some part time employee. It's
mm,
basically you're an extended member of my extended family.
right, right.
And it's nice that I could, if I have a last minute need or request, that I can just call someone up. I'm like, I know it's last minute, but I thought of you. Are you interested in, doing this?
Right,
And,
right.
I would say for the most part, it's always a yes.
Yeah,
So that, I think, it's only because I've established, put the time in to
right.
people. Because if you don't do that, like, then it just feels like I'm just a number. I'm just
Yeah,
somebody who's a nobody.
yeah. I think it's a really good sort of like insights there, and I think like I don't like it's very important when you talk about like every person is valuable, right? Like whether that's like an intern or like a volunteer or like the CEO of the company, they're all part of the journey. Maybe not equally distributed in terms of like how much time they're spending on it, but the time they are spending on it, like they have to, especially in sports, like of course, like it's very passion driven, but you have to feel, that you're part of something and that you're part of
Right.
that team, that culture, that organization. And I mean, like even for us, like being a startup, like with the, like I had a lot of interns and people like that have been part of my journey, like and the journey with Sporting Global, and I always I want this to be people like know that they've been part of Sporting Global at some point, and they've been part of the journey of where we are today. And having that sort of like relationship with them, and I saw that as well when I invited a lot of them for the beta launch party that we had, and everyone was like super excited, whether that's they've been helping us out for like 4 weeks or they helped us for like 4 months. They were like, oh, it's so cool to see like if this is continuing to grow. And I said, like, the time that you were here and the time you were part of this, like don't ever forget that you have been part of this journey where we are today. And that's like feels that sort of like ownership, and I guess like that thing that you talk about, like every people are important on the journey to for wherever that kind of role is. And as you talked about as well, is when you have to do that call, when you have to do that request, if you have that personal relationship, they know like, okay, my effort here is appreciated, and it's going to mean something in the big picture. And I think that's
Right.
really important.
Absolutely.
So talking a little bit about like your role now as director of ops operations, so what are some of your key responsibilities at Allied?
So at this current moment that we're living in, right? We're gonna talk about if and when we were having events and whatnot.
Right. Maybe we have to like, look at like exactly now and like what is the normal role you have.
Right. So a few updates. Actually, I'm now the branch manager. So
Nice.
that has transpired. But in a nutshell, as director of ops, I manage the team, and which would be like the hiring specialist, a scheduler, and ensure that the security personnel, once that they're hiring, we're hiring the right people, they're going through orientation,
Mhm.
training, and on event day that we're executing what the client's needs are in
Right.
regards to providing that security, not on the just exterior, but on the interior, and then all these other added levels of like whether it's an escort, whether there's this pop-up event. So just communicating, which is the most important thing to the staff, like, hey, even though we're always having like the same quote unquote like event, it's a basketball game, but there's these added elements like, so be aware of this new event that's happening or this new rule, or just ensuring that we have the right people at the right locations also, and ensuring that if there's any needs from the client that we're fulfilling that.
Yeah.
So just trying to ensure a seamless event from start to finish. That
Right.
really kind of in a nutshell is what a director of operations would do. And
Right.
within the branch manager role, it's actually also ensuring that's happening, but now trying to get other clients and more revenue
Yeah.
for the branch now in San Francisco.
Right. No, I mean, like it's a heavy job and a very important job too. And I guess like, dealing with Chase Center in well with like, with the wars and so forth. Of course, like there's other events happening there too, but not
Right.
as much now, of course, but there are, I guess, some. And how was sort of like that, I guess the pandemic sort of like impacted some of the tasks and like some of the measurements that you have to keep in mind and informing and communicating to the staff for those sort of events that are happening now.
Right. It's been very interesting, to be honest with you. Like there's challenges because our workforce is part-time.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have a full-time staff just there waiting. No, it's a part-time staff. So in and of itself, trying to keep that constant communication or connection throughout this past year has been eye-opening. So what I would do is I would send out weekly emails, just whether it's kind of like a touch base, hey, how are you doing? I started doing birthday roll call, so kind of celebrating them. Then I started this year, actually, there'll be one lucky winner every month for
Nice.
having a birthday, and they get a gift card. So, yay, you're getting something for just having a
Can
birthday.
I
And we're
sign
not,
up?
yes, you can. You got to come work for me first. Um,
That's fine. I mean, like, I'll do it as a side hustle.
Right. I don't know how expensive that flight is, but absolutely, I will definitely accept. You need to
Not
have a
for
guard
me
card.
covering that flight. No worries.
So, other things that we've done, spotlights. We've actually highlighted employees, kind of little story about themselves, what's their favorite memory at the venue, and things for the holidays, just like like Christmas,
Right.
St. Patty's Day, just having this like at least once a week type of connection to them to say
Mm.
like, hey, we're still thinking about you and we're still looking forward to holding events in the future, and we
Right.
hope to obviously see your face, because I've had phone calls too with numerous employees just seeing, hey, are you okay, are you good, but the downside with this is I've lost a lot of good people, and
Right.
that saddens me
Yeah.
because those are dependable people and people who have been doing the position for some time. So now it's having to train someone new,
Mm.
get them acclimated, get them to know what someone else has been doing. It's so second nature to them. Now it's like, okay, let's start from scratch.
Right.
So that's going to be an interesting buildup, to be honest, because
Yeah.
losing people that you don't have to manage, or over manage or be a micromanager. It's
Right.
nice. Like I know that the jobs will be taken care of. Now I'm kind of like, okay, starting all over again.
Right.
So
Yeah, I guess like, that's some of the challenges that the pandemic has brought right to the table of, people either being laid off or like, things coming up. And, obviously with the lack of events, there's, you know, what are you gonna do, right? It's sort of
Right.
like,
We've even pivoted, even during this time, we did work for the election. Even though that's like a 1 day gig, we actually helped a company down in the South Bay with temperature readings and checkings of their employees. So it's, we're trying. And then we
yeah,
also did something in the city kind of towards November, December, um, for a client in the city also needing security for something that they were doing for a few days. So
that's
it's
great. I
been
mean,
challenging.
you gotta adapt, right? Adapt to the situation, and through that as well, you maybe like open up for a new clientele, right? Which you maybe didn't, thought about before, and that's always good. Like,
Right.
some doors, and you gotta find those doors, and and then you open those, for you.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's like I always talk with people as well regarding like the startup, because we essentially released our public beta in January 2020, like literally
Right
3
before.
months, or literally 3 months before everything just shut down. And I said, like, as if we come through this, I'm pretty sure we can come through anything,
Absolutely. And
and
just getting the name out there is going to even be better.
yeah, and we're still here, so we're still we're still making progress, so things are happening. But yeah, moving on a little bit into like, I guess, like, of course, you talk a little bit about, the recruitment process, I guess, in a sense, through the 49ers, a little bit on like how you've been working, like focusing on people and everything, from now, from previous and all the way now to Allied. And I'm thinking like a little bit, of course, like, looking at, I guess, like the normality of like what Allied Universal and everything was working out with, like all the like events, stadiums, like helping out with similar throughout the US. Like, how are sort of like, Allied and you, I guess, in a sense, ensuring that the talent coming in represents you in the best possible way? Like, what are some of the things that, how do you essentially evaluate those kind of people and the candidates?
So with the company, there's a few things, right? Like one, you have to have a guard card. So just in itself, there's like skill set and requirements you have to bring to the table
Yeah.
before even working for us.
Right.
Um, I can't say for all jobs, most jobs,
Right.
background check.
Yeah.
So clearly we want to make sure that we have the right individuals in the building.
Yeah.
Um, those two are definitely important. But after that, once you step into that next role of, okay, what can they handle a situation? It's very customer service.
Mm.
Doesn't matter. At Levi's, it was still customer service. At the Giants, it was still the end of the day, can you communicate?
Right.
Communication, like I've said before, is
Yeah.
key. Can you communicate? So I'm going to ask you to do something, right? Um, we always want to be in the best interest. So I like to say you give everybody the benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah.
And you always want the positive outcome. So can this person, one, communicate? Can they handle providing customer service? Can they handle crowds? Like, can they think on their feet? I
Right.
mean, not everyone is going to be as fast to spew something out, but
Yeah.
as long as they can convey what is necessary, can they stand for long periods of hours?
Yeah.
Some of our places don't have seating positions, things of that nature.
Right.
So we just like to be very upfront about what we can provide, modification if available, but can you stand loud noise? You're
Yeah.
going to be around crowds, yelling and buzzards and horns and
Right.
music. That can you handle that? If
Yeah.
you're going to say no, then it's for you to think about this job.
Right.
Sorry, there's no way to avoid that. There's no position that you're not
Right.
going to hear something.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I guess that makes a total sense, right? In terms of like some baselines and some ground rules, that just has to be there, in order to make
Right.
make it work. And I mean, like you know, we had like some conversations before, and well, at least like one or two, but and I was like thinking like, you know, because you kind of like saw, I guess, like you can't in a way be seen as sort of like an HR hybrid, you know, working closely like with HR to your time a little bit at the 49ers alongside with the operations side. And I guess like my point, and like I guess you maybe touched a little bit upon it before, but like how do you utilize the different lenses, say like, you know, the HR lens and the operation lens, and into your decision making process when you recruit people now, you know?
Um, well, I like to always have like the bigger picture because here's the thing, right?
Right.
I always like for others to succeed. I always want people to grow. There's some people who are like, no, I'm just happy. I just want this. I don't want to go beyond this. I'm okay here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's other people that, they want to grow, they don't know how to grow. Like, how do I go to the next step? So it's kind of figuring out what is available to you and who then can you have a succession plan for, right? If that's what they want. So I like this kind of big picture, taking a look at that
Mm.
and just kind of then looking at the HR lens, I guess, is that what you kind of put it towards when making decisions
Yeah.
is how is this going to affect not just me, the individual, but the company?
Right.
Like in making this decision, who am I affecting? What is the change going to be?
Mm.
So there's been instances like that where I just come with some ideas. I'm like, hey, why can't we do it this way? Who is it going to affect? I've already gone down the list. What
Yeah.
are the pros? What are the cons? Like the results, like it is it worth it? So
Right.
I have to look at it like at my branch, how does it work for me? Then I take it to how can this work for the other branches,
Right.
which are scattered across the United States. We're
Mm.
not just in California, we're in Alabama,
Yeah.
Seattle, Texas, Idaho, some
Right.
others. So if it works like here, right, can we establish policies and procedures that work also for all? So we are
Right.
all working the same way. I don't want to say cookie cutter, but to be honest, it should be because if I wanted to go from this California branch and then go work at the Alabama, you should be really doing pretty much almost the same no matter what state you go to. The only difference, the variances, sure, laws, ordinances, and anything client specific.
Yeah. Yeah.
But outside of that, processes and policies should really be aligned.
Right. No, I mean like it makes total sense. And I guess like for those kind of initiatives, and also I guess like for the people too, that if they say like they move to a different city and you happen to have, you know, Ally Universal there too and clientele, then, you know, why couldn't they just, you know, easily transfer over there and start working there doing the exact same thing more or less, you know, in that city. So
Right.
that makes total sense.
Absolutely. It should, right? It should be plug and play.
I mean, like it's always tough, you know, when you're also big corporations, right? And then there's a lot of
Right.
these branches, right? Because I guess like that's what they, you know, it's a fine balance because, as you said, like there's different rules, there are different, you know, legal aspects and things to keep in mind. But at a general level, you know, you should be as synced as you can because I think also that is sort of like how do you trickle down, I guess, from HQ or where that is and to the branches, right? Of like what they stand for, like how do we all kind of like follow down? I guess like, you know, when that goes for any company that has, you know,
Right.
offices in different states or in different countries for that matter. And then it's like, you know, cultural aspects too. I guess like maybe not
Exactly.
cultural wise, there's too many differences across the US, but I'm not the one to say that.
But
Maybe
no, I think you bring up a very valid point because think about it, right? Chain restaurants. Take any chain restaurant. You're getting that same burger, same chicken sandwich. It's no different.
right.
Um, there may be like language difference, like you said,
Yeah.
or there be the way how you greet somebody from one part of the state to a different part of the state, but they still have that same process. It's
Right.
very canned process.
there's still Starbucks in Norway, as it is in the US.
See,
So
there you go. We're all getting our what is it? Coffee macchiatos.
yeah, and getting our name written wrong,
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
It's like, I mean, like I honestly think it's like a marketing scheme of from Starbucks,
You think so?
just so
We should
they
ask
have
them.
just so they have something, so for people to keep hustling them about it. So it's all PR, Maybe it is a marketing scheme. I don't know.
I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe it's because a barista wants that attention from that somebody. That's what they're trying to get us their DM,
Yeah, it's like, why did you get that letter wrong?
right? Too
I
funny.
gave up like saying my full name when I was ordering stuff in the US. Just because it was,
Oh, so you just dropped it to the first?
yeah, I just
Yeah, I think that's
you
best.
know. And even then sometimes, it was challenging, And as I
I
like
can
it,
only imagine.
yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, like, actually, the fun fact on that side in Norway, like, usually I think, like, of all the times I ordered in Norway, like, Starbucks wise, like, I got the name right, like, got the name right. So
Well, that's good.
I was like, didn't expect that.
Really? Huh.
I mean, like, it's like this funny joke, It's like, everyone talks about, like, when they're ordering something somewhere, it's like always the wrong name. So it's kind of like a history of like things happening, I guess, for people.
I think sometimes I just get used to like it. I was like, I don't care. I'm like, I think that's mine. I'm just gonna go now.
Yeah.
Just taking it.
Well, I'm like, as a Norwegian, I'm like, are we sure that that is mine? you know.
That's true.
But anyway, so we're actually about to like come to an end of the podcast. I can't believe it.
How sad. That's sad news.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess, like, we could talk about a lot of different things here for like many hours, but I think there's one thing that I just want to like, ask you, and that I think like it's always good for people is because there's always like a lot of young people and students and professionals here that are like trying to find their way. They're trying to kind of like find their path and opening their eyes a little bit. And what are some of the, I guess, like common tips and tricks that you would give to anyone trying to break in the industry, maybe working for a company like Allied Universal, or just even in sports, like what are some of the things that you learned along the ways that you're like, this is some stuff that you should keep in mind?
One thing I think we should all keep in mind that there's no one direct path.
Oh,
Think about it as a squiggly line, Lombard Street, just to give you that picture. So crooked, even though there's
yeah.
another crookeder street in San Francisco. That's a fun fact there.
For those that don't know it, it's that zigzag street that you always see in the movies.
Lombard, yep, good old Lombard. Look, there's no direct path on getting there. You should definitely try to get a mentor,
Mm,
whether in that organization or if you have a friend that knows someone. Connections, there's so much networking. I mean, we have so many things at our disposal,
right.
with USF is another example. We have the My USF network, so there's a lot of alumni there that you can even reach out, and you can even filter down to other categories, like if you wanted to reach out to a Latinx alumni. So I think just having a plan, make a plan, know that I want to get to A to B, but it might take me actually from A to H. And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you get there and you're happy, right? I think another thing that we don't really talk about, what if we get there and we're not happy?
Right.
So, something that someone taught me like many years ago, which was great.
Yeah.
He's like, take a piece of paper. One side, put what your skills are, and the other side, put what you're passionate about. I was like, okay, super simple. And then he's like, now take them and cross them, like
Right.
connect them. And I was like, okay, he's like, now start searching for jobs based off of what you connected. Okay. And then I was like, oh, wow, like these are interesting. Like you find other things you didn't know kind of existed, even if it's
Right.
like not for the sports team you wanted.
Right.
So I think getting creative also I think in today's world, we have so many resources that are at our tip of fingers. Like you have Instagram, you have Snapchat, you have, Slack, where all these groups are.
Right.
Do intros in there, do informational meetings. I think that's one of the best ones. You just sound like, look,
Mm.
I'm trying to get my foot in the door. Could I take 15 minutes of your time? Um, I just have a few questions. So LinkedIn, another resource.
Right.
It's just there's so much. It's like, how hungry are you for this? And are you
Mm.
going to put the time and effort into it? I think going back even to professors that you had, like, I think this is why I love like the USF sports program, because it's still, you're still connected no matter what
Right.
year you graduated. You can always go back and they can help you out. That network in itself, you have so many people that work beyond just the US, like
Yeah.
in other countries as well.
Right.
So I think big, don't limit yourself. And if you can move, absolutely do it. It's going to be an experience that one you can't buy.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah.
Get some ideas flowing. But I think I tried for many things. I applied, just apply. But
Yeah.
make sure you sell yourself. Don't just be another resume that they get.
Right.
Because if there's, not saying that you're not special, but if you're not showing me how much more special you are,
Right.
how am I going to know that? Right. I loved cover letters when I would do my HR stuff, because one, you took the time and you curtailed it to the job description. What can you bring to the table?
Yeah.
Um, so I think take that extra effort. Tell me a little more about yourself. Tell me why you deserve this position. And
Mm.
I think something that females do, and I'm gonna admit to it 100%. There were many times where I would see a job description. I'm like, oh my God, I would totally want to do this. And then I would go look at the requirements. I'm like, oh, well, I don't have that and don't like have that, but I have the experience. I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna pass. We gotta stop doing that. And
Just go
females,
for it.
unfortunately, we do that.
Go
And
for it.
there's been a study about this.
Yeah.
Men, on the other hand, they will apply. They don't even have the requirements. They apply. And then almost like, you know what? You can learn on the job. You can, there's all these other educational, like, what is it? Google has classes. There's so many things. Like, if we need to learn on the side, learn it on the side, learn it on the job. I
Right.
mean, how many people have done this? Like, you fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Or what they do is they build a team that they can delegate these things to.
Right.
And at the end of the day, right, they look amazing because of the team that they put under themselves.
Right.
So I shine, you shine, we all shine.
Right. Exactly.
Um,
No, it's
so I think this is a great question that I think we can go forever on, to be honest with you.
I feel like I just
But
make my comments and stuff, but I was like, I gotta get worried on the time
I
here.
know I feel bad. I was like going and you're just like, I'm not gonna let them talk. But it's okay.
No, but I mean, like, it's about you, like you're sharing your insights, and so that's some really great, tips and advice here. I think that people can really, keep back in their mind. And I guess like also that I guess like the task that you talk about of like, writing the stuff on the paper of like, what is your skill set, what are you passionate about, and just sort of like opening your eyes to that. And I mean, like, we both been, internationally, you went to Mexico. I don't know if you've been at other places as well in that
I
sense.
have been. I've traveled other places, just not worked any sports events
But
yet
have you
outside of
been to
Mexico.
Norway?
Not been to Norway, been to Spain, been
So
to Italy.
that's on your next list.
I want to come visit you for sure. You have to show me the life out there.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, like, it's just about exploring your mindset, right? And trying that. And I know you talked a lot about like, networking. And I mean, like, we're also a perfect example. Like, we're both part of the USF community, kind of like how that also opened a door. And I know for me personally, and I say this a lot to you, of like I never like had a plan of starting a company. Like, it was never on like my really like idea or game plan. So I guess like this was probably, GHIQ. I don't even know what kind of letter we want to go at this point, but I knew, like, I spent a lot of time on talking with people, and I even like reach out to like roles and stuff that honestly, it was not like I was like passionate about like what that person was doing, but I was like just curious because I didn't know what that role was, and I just wanted
Mhm.
to learn. Okay, what exactly are you doing? Like why is this part of like say the basketball team? Why is this part of like the league or whatever company that is, and just like understanding the mechanisms, and through that you sort of like broaden your horizon and say like, huh, that might actually be interesting, or that might be something I should pursue. Or you realize that that's definitely not something for me, which I also realized that a few times. I was like, I don't think I should go that route, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, like it's a good learning process, and it's something that as a student as well as you have to take advantage of and soak in as much knowledge as you can and never stop learning. I remember like also like talking with the HR of earthquakes at a podcast too, and we talked exactly about like how much of the skill set do you actually need, like how much of the requirements. And she said like if you reached about like 70% at least from their side, that's something that should be good enough, and they want
Right.
people to learn.
Right. And I think something else that I've told people before, like your attitude, your character
Yeah.
means so much, because you can even say like, look, I'm eager to learn. I want to learn. Yes, I don't have everything that you're wanting me to have,
Yeah.
but let me prove it to you. Right. So you take that risk on that person, but it could be so gratifying at the end, because they want to learn, they want to have that under their
Yeah.
belt.
That
So
hunger.
yeah, I sometimes it's about, can this person, is this person coachable, trainable, right?
Yeah.
And if they are, great. You know what? We're going to learn together. We're going to make it happen. And I guess something else I forgot, like there's so many different groups. Like there's a WISE network, right? The WISE SF here, at least in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then even like thinking big, right? Like let's say I want to work for the NFL. Okay, well, how do you get your foot there when they're in the East Coast? Okay,
Right.
well, you can go volunteer at their Super Bowls. And
Right.
there's so many things. Like you just have to dig deeper. You could even work for a company like Visa. They're a
Right.
sponsor. So it's just, you can navigate around but still be a part of it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's just so much to that. And like I think you can have a very long session about different
I
ways
guess we have to
of getting
do like a second podcast or something down the road of just like what can you do.
right. How do I get there or get around it or somehow near it?
Yeah,
Because there's a way.
there's always a way, but I think like to wrap it up as well, and I'll let you have like some final words here, but it comes down to like your passion, your commitment, like showing how hungry are you for this, and being coachable, as I said, like being teachable. And if you are that, there's no limits of what you can do and how far you can do. Like I had a perfect example as well. We literally had like the CEO of Badminton Ireland on our podcast like not too long ago, and I mean like he went into badminton. He had no background from badminton, and he said like it was just interesting. It's something I want to do. And he started as an intern, and now he's like their CEO. So you never know what's
Crazy,
gonna happen.
right?
Some passion and some hard work.
Right. I guess just some parting words is take the risk. Yes. If if you're fearful of it, great, then you're living your life. If you're not fearful, I don't know what you're doing. Just kind of coasting by, I guess, which
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that. However, ask the question. Don't be afraid. What's the worst that's gonna happen? They say no. Okay. So what? Move on.
There's always
Life is
another
still
door.
happening. Exactly. And I think your company also, I think it brings a um fresh air to the industry, versus just not being another resume that's getting passed along. So I do wish great success to you and your team, because we're definitely be using it. And also for anybody who wants to come to work at the Chase Center, for sure, part-time event security, come holler. Definitely would love to interview, and have great people on the team. So Yeah.
Well, Eve, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure having you part of this, learning a little bit more about you, about your journey, about what you do at Allied, Universal, and a lot of the tips that people can do. Like I think looking at it from like a very uh, broad perspective is that we're living in a of course like pandemic is challenging, but you got to focus on the good things, what you can
Right.
do, how to utilize the time, and there's so much potential. So
Right.
spend this time to like work on yourself, understanding what you stand for, like maybe like looking at it as the role that you like, kind of like the task you were mentioning, maybe do that after this interview, and start mapping out. Maybe you'll find something different than you never thought about, and
Yeah.
that could be cool. So it's
Right.
worth exploring.
I
uh,
think that's fun. It's fun exercise.
Absolutely. So with that, Eva, I would like to thank you so much for the time, and I'm gonna finish up with like some Norwegian. I don't know if you're ready for it though.
Oh, goodness gracious. Go for it.
So with every video we do, we always finish with "Vi snakkes," which means "see you later" in Norwegian.
Vi snakkes.
There you go. Look at that.
Vi snakkes.
Yay! All right, thank you.
Totally gonna use that today.
That's awesome. Now you know some Norwegian.
I do. I like it. All right. Well, I guess till next time. And hope you have a good one, all right?
All right. Thank you so much, Eve.
No problem.